Okay, so are you ready to, like, dive into the future of tech?
Always?
We're talking The Waves today.
Okay.
A website that's really all about, technology and how it impacts society.
Right. Yeah.
But then also what it means for, your wallet.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about these articles is they really go beyond just like looking at the new iPhone or the newest gadget.
Right.
They really want us to understand like the bigger picture, the
Right.
driving forces behind all of these trends that we're seeing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing the latest iPhone, we're trying to understand the entire ocean that it came from.
Yes, exactly. And The Waves actually argues that technology moves in these big sweeping cycles.
Okay.
They call them long waves.
Long waves, okay.
And when you think about it,
Yeah.
the steam engine, electricity, even the internet,
Right.
each of these innovations completely transforms society.
Right.
And they're arguing that we're on the verge of a new one.
Okay, let's unpack this long wave idea a bit, because it sounds kind of intimidating.
It does.
Like something you could wipe out on.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong.
Right.
These waves create massive opportunities, but they also leave behind the companies and, frankly, the investors who just can't adapt.
Right.
In fact, one article, Technology Stocks Profiting and Preventing Loss from Long Waves, argues that understanding where we are in these cycles is absolutely crucial for anyone who wants to make money in tech.
Okay, so how do they define where we are right now? Like, what wave are we riding?
They make a really compelling case that we're transitioning from the mobile internet wave into a new wave powered by artificial intelligence.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
So that's huge. I can see why the Waves is emphasizing this, but knowing this, how do we ride this new wave without wiping out?
Right.
You said it.
Well, avoiding the fall of innovation leaders, 10 choices to remain great, gets into this.
Okay.
And they highlight 10 crucial things
10 things. Okay.
that companies need to do to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, that's a lot to remember. Anything in there that really stood out to you?
A lot of it is common sense, but they really emphasize this idea of continuous reinvention.
Okay.
Even the companies at the very top, they can't rest on their laurels.
Right.
They have to constantly be looking for the next big thing,
Yeah.
even if it means disrupting their own products.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're their own competition in a way.
It's true. And they actually use Apple as a prime example in their article, iPhone Product Lifecycle Insights for Innovation Success.
Okay.
And they point out that Apple consistently introduces new iPhone models that directly compete with their older versions.
So if you want to understand how a tech company will perform in the long run, you need to ask yourself, are they the kind of company that's content to just ride the wave?
Right.
Or are they actively shaping it?
That's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating is The Waves goes a step further and actually analyzes why some of the biggest tech companies in the past have stumbled. Yeah, they actually break it down in an article called Innovation Leaders Become Losers, 10 Reasons.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things they point to is this failure to adapt to what they call disruptive innovation.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about how fast technology changes. It's like,
Right.
you snooze, you lose. Right.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is they specifically call out ChatGPT as a potential disruptor to watch,
Okay.
especially for a company like Google.
Because something like that could totally change how we search for information online.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which would have huge implications for Google's core business, right?
Right.
So it's just a really good example of why it's so important, I think, for investors to look beyond just like the current tech landscape.
Yeah.
You have to think about what's coming down the pipeline and are these companies prepared?
Yeah. So it's not just about riding the wave. It's like anticipating the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, while we've been focusing a lot on established companies,
Yeah.
The Waves also talks a lot about the role of startups in all of this.
Startups, right. They're almost like the surfers out there.
Yeah.
Trying to catch that perfect wave.
It's a great analogy. And the article, Tech Startups Fueling Reinvention Wave and Winning the Race,
Okay.
really gets into that and argues that startups are often the ones actually driving these big technological leaps, pushing the boundaries.
But let's be real. Startups are risky.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them fail.
Yeah.
So how do investors navigate that risk? Especially in such like a volatile landscape?
That's where a really strong intellectual property strategy becomes so crucial.
Okay. Right. It's like their secret weapon
Yeah.
to kind of like stand out and protect what they've created in such a crowded space.
Yeah. And, startup IP strategy, will your startup valuation collapse without it?
Yeah.
Really gets into that.
Okay.
And they basically argue that, patents, trade secrets, these things are vital for a startup.
Yeah.
Not just to survive, but to thrive. Right. To attract investors.
Right. Because it's one thing to have a cool idea.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be able to like protect it.
Totally.
And build a business around it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got these long waves of innovation. We've got these companies trying to reinvent themselves constantly.
Yeah.
And then we've got these startups trying to like, I guess, ride that wave.
Their place.
Find their place.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for someone listening who's trying to like make sense of all of this.
Right.
In the world of tech stocks, what's like the key takeaway?
That is the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
I think if you're going to understand technology stocks through the lens of the waves, you have to remember that technology doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in these like powerful cycles of disruption.
So before we jump on that bandwagon of the latest and greatest thing,
Yes.
we need to look deeper.
100%. Don't just get swept away by the hype.
Yeah.
Right? Ask yourself, does this company
Yeah.
have what it takes to actually adapt
Okay.
and reinvent themselves? Can they stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
What's their IP strategy?
Right.
These are the questions that will really tell you if a company is built to last or if they're just going to,
Fade away.
Exactly.
This was a great deep dive. Very eye-opening.
It's some fascinating stuff.
I feel like I have a much better grasp on what's going on now and what to look out for in the future. So thank you so much for breaking down the waves with me today. This is fantastic.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.